Oh, hi, I didn't see you there. It's me, Chad White, the host of your favorite entertainment business news show from your favorite entertainment business news website thing. Shut up. Anyway, once a year, I sit down and I do what happened in a year in comedy. This year in comedy, 2021, by that, I mean, is a doozy. I'm not bulk shooting 4 episodes in one day. No way. I did these all on time and they're all releasing on time. We're going to talk about how streamers, networks, and comedians have all adapted to the first full year of the pandemic. Okay, let's start the show.
It's news time. Delivering to you the news you didn't know about, the news you didn't care about, and the news you didn't know you cared about. With host, Chad White. Now, here's that host, Chad White.
Yeah. Welcome back to News Time. I'm your host, Chad White, and this is the year in comedy news that you didn't know about. So let's knock this out of the way real quick. Streaming had a banner year and what would be known as the first full year of the pandemic. I don't think anyone's ever addressed it as that, but yeah, 2021 was the first full year of the pandemic, and now we're coming into a year where it's likely to be the second full year of the pandemic. We'll see. I'm no future seer. What do they call those people? Soothsayers, ESPNers. Anyway, streaming did wonderfully, but the problem is a lot of streaming platforms went for prestige over comedy, and it was really hard to cull together a list of new comedic shows. And even though this is C plus comedy, and it has branched out into the worlds of just generalized entertainment business news, we still come from the land of comedy, and I guess this show is somewhat comedic. Not trained, and I'm not very funny, but we'll go with that. So there are two shows that I really want to bring up in the world that came from the world of streaming that really did exemplary work. Girls Five Eva over on Peacock, and Only Murders in the Building. Now, both of those shows, Only Murders in the Building is the one that seemingly has not been done before. It is a podcast show. There's been a lot of shows that have been made from podcasts, like the show on CBS called "Shit My Dad Says," starring William Shatner. And what was that one show about the horror show over on Amazon Prime that came from that popular show? And I think Alex Inc. was a Gimlet show, but Only Murders in the Building is a show about making podcasts, and in some cases it feels like a couple of old white guys making a show about podcasts. But then on the other side of that, it is very funny, and the mystery is very engaging and very deep, and it's a good show to watch. Not in a vacuum, but to watch in rapid succession. I'm not saying binge, but I'm saying over the course of a week to watch the entire season. And Selena Gomez was just a great addition to Martin Short and Steve Martin. I was going to say Steve Carell, but that's not right. And then Girls Five Eva is just another dip into the world of Tina Fey and Robert Carlock, because Tracy Wigfield, who worked with those two and then made a different show on NBC that didn't do too hot, and now she made this show. It just feels so good, and it's so funny, and episodes are nice and meaty, and the songs work really well. And Sarah Bareilles and Renee Elise Goldberry are just fantastic leads, and those are two people that would not normally be in a show like that. And then Paula Pell and Busy Phillips, those couples just, and of course, obviously they're part of the same girl group, but just bringing them in together, all four of them, they just play off of each other so well, and the writing is just fantastic. Now, that was streaming. Again, very hard to find streaming comedy shows, even ones that were introduced last year, because a lot of it was brought over from the year prior. Next up, we have broadcast, and there are three shows that I want to highlight there from the three of the major networks that have comedy shows. One of them does not. and it is Fox Broadcasting, and the CW also doesn't have a show, but whatever. Whenever we're talking about them, and even though my late night show on the CW was canceled, can you believe they only gave me 4 years? So, Home Economics on ABC is not entirely. It's not a hard watch, and it's not a show that. And by hard watch, I mean it's not something that you're going to want to sit down every single week. But I do, because I enjoy Topher Grace and Jimmy Tatro and Sashir Zameda. It's just truly just a really good group of people in that show. Even the kids aren't annoying. So it's a great show. And the first couple episodes of last season were kind of cliche, but now they've turned this into. The cast is just incredible. The siblings are great. And the family is just so fun and so adorable to watch. And I do genuinely like the jokes. But if you're looking for, so that one's like an easy comedy. The two other shows that will have you on the floor breathless are Ghosts on CBS, starring Rose McIver and Utkarsh Ambedkar, and a whole ensemble cast of people playing ghosts. That show, I just can't say enough praise about that show. That has to be the best new comedy this season. And for it to be on CBS proper and to do so well and do as well as it's doing with a diverse cast, it's just astounding to see. And it's interestingly enough, they have an ensemble cast, but not everybody appears in every single episode. Mostly because of monetary concerns. I'm pretty sure it's only monetary. But now there's this big old headline in the trades that everybody will be appearing in every episode for the rest of the season. Another good show, like I mentioned before, Young Rock. Dwayne Johnson, proved me wrong. He has not done a bad project since maybe The Race to Witch Mountain. Wait, is that him? Or Journey to the Center of the Earth, wherever that is. I can't believe that this show translated so well. His life translated so well to a TV show on a broadcast network. And following 3 different versions of himself at different ages, it's been done before. Most prominently, maybe 3 or 4 years ago in the show Me, Myself, and I, that starred Bobby Moynihan and John Larroquette, and I think Michael J. White. No, the other one. Anyway, Jaleel White, excuse me, my cousin. They're both my cousins. It's Young Rock is just so funny, and it's obvious that Nan Chaka Khan, who also created Fresh Off the Boat, is like, it just fits so well. It's just such a funny show, and to have all the rapid fire jokes from Fresh Off the Boat make it into Young Rock, and then also to be endearing at 3 different levels of The Rock's life, and to have him in the show on network television is just unheard of. It would have been unheard of 5 years ago at that. Now, there are 2 shifts in the comedy world or 3 shifts rather, that I think really stood out. Obviously, we had, Netflix continued to reign on REIGN and not RAIN, that's RAN. But Netflix continued to reign on releasing stand-up specials and comedy-minded and comedy-focused things, where Comedy Central used to be the leader. Now Comedy Central / Paramount Plus, they had this idea. Now they shifted strategy from releasing the real life to live action shows. Those have moved over to HBO Max, and then South Park specials. Instead of having a season of South Park in the last 2 years, we've been getting specials. So we've gotten a couple of specials on HBO Max, and then Paramount Plus saw the need in having those, and then they signed a deal with Matt and Trey to do 14 specials that are technically they're movie length. They're all over 60 minutes. When I think the shortest feature film to be released is a Winnie the Pooh movie. That's an animated Winnie the Pooh movie from late 2010s. So 63 minutes, I think that movie was. So to have these they're basically specials, but to have these movies come out is is good, but the problem is that they are very story heavy. And but I'm glad that they're not as heavy on the political stuff of the last couple of seasons, because that's just been bad in my opinion, obviously. But shifting their shows, shifting the live action shows like Aquafina is Nora from Queens and Southside, and the other two over to HBO Max is not promising for those shows. I don't know what happens. Who's producing those shows is probably Viacom CBS producing those and Comedy Central producing those, but they're releasing them on HBO Max because they couldn't find a home on MTV or VH1 or wherever their other live action shows are going. It stinks, and I hope that other two and Aquafina's Nora from Queens and Southside all get other chances to live on HBO Max. Speaking of HBO Max, they did another thing where it involved reunions of comedy shows. Now, over the first year of the pandemic, rather, we saw people come back with their old casts from one sometimes a year prior, sometimes 10 years prior, sometimes 20 years. And a lot of them played out differently, especially the stuff that Josh Gad did. But I think the HBO Max ones, which include the Harry Potter one as well, but I'm going to really focus on the Fresh Prince and the Friends ones. Really, I think cemented what one of those specials could be. And instead of having, obviously, we were in the middle of a pandemic and we can't have people appear in live action in real life with each other a lot. But the Friends one was done so well, and it's a shame that it didn't get the full treatment that they wanted. But what happened was that it was good. Fresh Prince one, I mean, and for both of these, really, we didn't get any revelations that we didn't already know, and anything big was, you could kind of piece together yourself over the past 20 or 30 years that these shows have been on and off. But it's nice to see that these shows came back and with the reunion format, and they do them so well and with care, and good job for HBO Max on that front. Then, as I mentioned previous to this, a final shift in the comedy world is that there's a lack of comedy on cable and streamers. Notably, like when I was searching for these shows, I'd already pretty much watched all of them, but Showtime, Starz, Amazon, and Disney Plus all lacking in new comedy shows. I don't know if I overlooked something. I probably did. Who knows? I don't put it past myself because I don't know everything that happened in this world. But those networks all did not have shows that stood out as coming out last year that were comedy focused, which is a shame because Showtime could really use something to combat what HBO has. I know they need the viewers, but a dedicated set of viewers is better than having a lump sum of people come in. Stars, I don't like. I mean, is Blind Spotting a comedy? Not really. So, and then Amazon just couldn't see anything at all. And then Disney Plus, I no, there's nothing there. All a Marvel Star Wars show, but nothing that was outwardly comedic. Now, I want to do some honorable mentions before I go. And these are shows and movies that I think were fantastic. They stood out in the limited world. And also, there's another thing. There's no more releases of comedy movies, of comedy, even blockbusters. No B-list movies in theaters anymore. Obviously, we're in the middle of a pandemic, but when Netflix bought Lovebirds from Paramount, the movie starring Issa Rae and Kumail Nanjiani, that kind of signaled that there was an end to these movies coming out. And so now I can only see it being, I think the only way you'll get a comedy movie in a theater is if it's an indie movie. And for some reason, Being the Ricardos is labeled a comedy over on Amazon Prime. I was going to say Amazon Plus, but it's not that. It's basically that. But Amazon Prime labels Being the Ricardos a comedy. And I saw that in theaters at an indie theater. And while I did laugh, at some points, it was a really harsh, kind of dramatic film. So we're never, that's a little bonus one for you. We're not going to see comedy movies in theaters unless they're giant, big excursions like the 21 Jump Street series. So here we go. Honorable mentions. MacGruber. This is a sequel series to the MacGruber movie on Peacock. Everybody's back. It's fantastic. Saturday Morning All-Star Hits. Kyle Mooney, SNL's Kyle Mooney, gets his own show to do all of that 10 to 1 spots that's what's labeled on SNL, the last 10 minutes of the episode sketches. He's basically doing all of that here on Netflix, on a Netflix series, and it's really good. It's very wild and very true to its name. Saturday Morning All-Star Hits. Mr. Mayor, an NBC show starring Ted Danson and an ensemble cast that is very funny, very light Tina Fey, because I think it is produced by Tina and Robert Carlock. And then here comes Inside Job over there on Netflix. A great adult animated series that is a little bit too crude for my taste, but I do think in the end I enjoyed watching all the episodes. 2 children's shows on Netflix, Centaur World and Dogs in Space. Centaur World only has 2 seasons, and they wrapped them up over the course of, I think, maybe 6 to 7 months. And it's a very good musical show that explores identity and anxiety and all that crap that people love. Dogs in Space, a very funny show starring Haley Joel Osment as the animated dogs going to space and trying to find a new planet for humans. And it's very fun. MODOK over on Hulu, which is a claymation show about MODOK from the Marvel Universe. And I don't know if it's exactly part of the MCU, because I know they want all that stuff to tie in, but it's a very funny and dark show. And I think Stupid Monkey produced it, obviously. I think they're the only ones that do claymation shows anymore, but very funny. The Mitchells versus the Machines, Vivo, and Wish Dragon. All 3 Netflix releases, and my God, what good acquisitions these were, because Wish Dragon is a fantastic movie about set in I think it's in Japan, but with this the heritage behind it. Same thing for Vivo. It's just so beautiful, and hearing Lin-Manuel Miranda write these songs and sing these songs is amazing. And then Mitchells vs. Machines is just, I think it has to be one of my favorite movies of the past year. It's just fun and exciting and very daring. Then we have 2 adult movies that were released, one on Netflix and one on Hulu, Bad Trip and Vacation Friends, respectively. Both of these movies, one was purchased by Netflix and held over for a little bit, which was Bad Trip with Eric Andre and Lil Rel Howery, who also stars in Vacation Friends, and Tiffany Haddish. Just a fantastic, culmination of story and real life, documentary footage of them wreaking havoc in what is said to be like the entire East Coast, but it's all Atlanta. And then basically like right down the street and sometimes up the road. And then finally we have Vacation Friends, which is Lil Rel Howery, John Cena. It's so funny, and it's so ridiculous and so unexpected in some places, and it really does. It doesn't do, the description to the movie does not do it justice. It's just a great movie to turn on, and I can't wait to see what this unnecessary sequel of this movie will have. But that's it. That's the year in comedy for 2021. It was different, to be sure, for sure, but I think it's going to push comedy shows into a new direction, and networks are definitely going to see what the streamers are doing and try to match that, if not make it better. But I think it's all going to match. But in terms of movies, it's difficult to make these and release them. And I don't think we're going to see, we're done with reunion specials. I think we're going to continue seeing those periodically, at least over the next year, before everything gets everybody gets bored by it and they get stale. But for the big ones, Lord of the Rings, that one's going to be a huge one. Well, it's been some time, so I don't think we're going to see that. But anyway, there we go. That's news time. Listen, if you like what you saw here, and I don't know why you wouldn't, head to the website cpluscomedy.com, where you can see me do stuff. You can follow us on Twitter and Instagram at CPOS Comedy. Follow me on Twitter and Instagram at Chad Black White. Like us on Facebook. Listen to the Constitutionalist podcast wherever you get your podcasts. If you thought I was going to forget to say subscribe and check out one of our other videos, but I did not. And you're stupid and you're dumb. So shut your mouth.